Today the Mother Church celebrates the feast of Saint Matthew, the Apostle and Evangelist. As we celebrate the Apostle Matthew today, we celebrate the faith that is handed down to all of us. The faith that each one of us profess today is the experience of the apostles with the Lord. What they experienced in Jesus, they lived. And what they lived in faith, they shared with all of us. And today, St. Matthew invites us for that. Faith should be our personal experience with the Lord. And that should become our life, and our life should become witness to others. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Saint Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Jesus passed on. He saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax office, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And as he sat at table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and sat down with Jesus and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, a genuine encounter with Jesus leads to a transformation. A genuine encounter with Christ leads to a life that is changed once and for all. And in today's Gospel, we heard of one such encounter of Christ with Matthew the tax collector. And from today, the life of Matthew will gradually change. And this encounter that he had with Jesus will slowly change the very personality of Matthew, will slowly change the thought pattern of Matthew, the way he would look at things, the way he would look at people, the desires of his life, the aspirations of his life, everything will gradually change. And one fine day, Matthew will see himself as an image of Christ himself. And today we are celebrating that image of Christ. When we celebrate Matthew, it is not just Matthew alone. We are celebrating Christ who is living in Matthew. Christ who made his home in St. Matthew and touched the world. That is the power of the encounter of the Lord. I said a genuine encounter, a true encounter. Many encountered the Lord, even the scribes and Pharisees in today's Gospel, they met Jesus, but nothing changed. Nothing changed. Every time the Pharisees would encounter Jesus, would confront Jesus, but nothing changed in their life. What does this genuine encounter means? There are two things that happens in an encounter with the Lord, a genuine encounter with the Lord. acceptance of our weakness and the acceptance of the greatness of God. Two things. I accept that I'm weak, and that is what the Lord is saying. I've come for the weak, for the sick. And the moment I accept that I'm weak before the Lord, I need His grace, and there begins transformation. There begins transformation. The moment the prodigal son accepted that he was weak, that was not his place, there began his transformation, his journey back to the Father. The moment the Lord encountered Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus felt that things are not okay in his life. Lord, if I've defrauded anyone, if I've cheated anyone, there he feels something is not okay in my life. I'm weak. There is emptiness in my life. And there change begins. The thief on the cross, he knew who he was and accepts the greatness of Christ. Lord, remember me when you come in your kingdom. Both I accept that I am weak, at the same time I accept the greatness of the one who is before me. St. Peter, who accepted his weakness, Lord, I'm a sinner, get away from me. And Peter was aware of the greatness of Christ. That is genuine transformation. You can take any of the encounters that people had with Jesus in the gospel. If that encounter had these two things, definitely that led them for a change of life, for a transformation. When our nothingness meets the greatness of God, there begins transformation. When our nothingness meets the greatness of God. And today, the nothingness of Matthew is meeting with the greatness of Christ. When my emptiness meets with the abundance of Christ. Every time Christ speaks of life, he says life in its fullness. He speaks of joy, he says joy in its fullness. That is abundance in Christ. When my nothingness, when my emptiness meets with the abundance of Christ, there is a miracle. There is a miracle. There is a transformation. And today, as we celebrate Matthew, a day when the nothingness of Matthew met the greatness of Christ. When the emptiness of Matthew met with the abundance of Christ, a saint is born, an apostle is born, an evangelist is born. And today, let us ask the Lord, Lord, let my nothingness meet with your greatness. Let my emptiness meet with your abundance. Help me, Lord, to know my weakness and to accept your greatness.